Now we're going to move into account mapping in the new fiscal and where to start. So as a former ISV partner leader, this time of year was always a bit like a little bit of a black hole. As Natalie talked about the territory carve, it's like, what's going on over there? How do I drive business? How do I communicate with AEs? So what we're going to share now is things that you can do right now to set yourself up for success. So this is an example, obviously, of customers sold in the last year. So you should have all this information in your CRM, but looking at the customers that you signed a deal with Salesforce last year. So for example, we'll look at Mass Mutual. We know that the Salesforce AE when we sold Mass Mutual was Casey Gage. His RVP was Seymour Profits. The actual use case in which we sold Mass Mutual was documentation and compliance. The ACV was $85,000. Now, you should be able to go to the industry blueprints to look at kind of these use cases. This is a really helpful tool. We can follow up with questions on that later. But what's happening right now at Salesforce is Mass Mutual is likely going to go to a different account executive. So you now have two opportunities to talk with people. So as you can see, your PAM can help you with this, or you can even ask your customers, who's your new Salesforce AE? Damian West is now the AE for Mass Mutual, and it looks like it still remains under Seymour Profits, the same RVP. So you should do this with your top 10 customers that you sold last year, and this is a great place to start networking.
Thanks, Sam. This is a great example for reach out to a former AE of how to stay aligned and nurture already existing account team relationships, and just to remind them of the success that you've shared throughout the year, or maybe even multiple years together. And this is so important, as although these contacts may no longer be aligned to previously shared customer accounts, they will have other new accounts, as Sam mentioned, for you to work on together for this fiscal year. And it's also good to remind them of any enhancements that you've made, other big deal wins, as examples to really crystallize how you can add value by them bringing you in. And I think it's also helpful in this kind of outreach to maybe even bullet highlights that re-articulate your use cases that will be real drivers in addressing their customer challenges, or attaching a simple one-pager as a leave behind with this email for you to stay top of mind amongst their many competing priorities. Arming them with this relevant information like this will be extremely valuable, and we promise worth the effort and time of putting into this, as it's something tangible that they can refer back to when having the internal account team conversations, QBRs, meetings with customers. And this could even serve as an entryway into the teams bringing you into their account planning motion.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just say the softer side of this business too is these are people on the other side. And if you've built a relationship in co-selling with them in the last year, you need to nurture that relationship. You need to reach out again. It's not a one and done. So this is a great way to keep those relationships relevant and alive.
Great. So this is an example of a new account executive that's covering an account that you might have worked on in the past year. So when our sales territories are finalized, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, this is a great example of how you can leverage the relationship that you built last year to quickly gain credibility with that new AE. And what I love about this template is that it explicitly names the contacts at the customer account that you worked with last year. I actually sometimes take it a step further and hyperlink their LinkedIn profiles in there. It calls out the specific industry use case, and it also has a point of view. And then lastly, explicitly also calls out the account executive that you worked with last year. So definitely when this is shared at the end of the presentation, copy this, and this can be used for building those new relationships in the next couple of weeks.
And I'll just say I've personally seen success with an example like this because, as we've talked about, this AE is brand new to the account. So they may not know everybody. You feel like you're not offering a lot of value, but as Natalie mentioned, just by calling out who you're working with, AEs are like, I haven't met that person yet, or what are they responsible for? And all of a sudden, they're very interested to talk to you about it. So now we're going to talk about one of my favorite things is data and keeping track of your partnership. So as you know, Kate just mentioned there's 150,000 customers. There's, I don't even know, 10,000 sellers in the Salesforce ecosystem. To keep track of this in your notebook is impossible, but it's crucial that you are keeping track of it. So in your Salesforce or your CRM, have a system in which you can notate which accounts are owned by which AEs and what happens in the carve. We have a managed package that does this for you, but if you have a system already in place, this is a perfect way and a perfect time to be updating this data. So for example, like we talked about, Mass Mutual, we now know there's a new account executive on there. Casey Gage is no longer on the account. And as you can see here, we also have a life cycle for Casey. So he's engaged. We worked with him on Mass Mutual last year. This is a perfect person to reach out to and say, who's in your patch now? How can we help? Similarly, Damian West, he's now the new account executive on the account. So I don't know him yet, meaning he's a new relationship in our system. And I need to build a follow-up plan according to where that relationship sits.